just go with it.
Call the regular meeting of the Pennington County Commission to order. Just a reminder to silence your cell phones if you would, please. And for anyone that wishes to speak on any particular agenda item, there's forms in the back that you can fill out and ask you to return those on your right side here to Holly Hennies. And we'll start with moment of silent reflection and Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Lassiter.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Lassiter. Appreciate that. Next item is to review and approve agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion from Commissioner LaCroix, second from Commissioner Lassiter to approve the agenda. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, we have Brad Wilson. Ask Brad to come forward. Brad is the owner and president of Insurance Benefits. Through that, he also does the contractual services for the SDML Work Comp Fund, providing the marketing and the, I'll let you explain what you do.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Brad Wilson. I'm the administrator for the SDML Workers' Compensation Fund, and what that means is that we provide the work comp coverage for work-related injuries to your employees of Pennington County. A little bit of history. We were formed back in 1987, started out with 57 members, and now fast forwarding to 34 years later, we are at 501 members, cover only public entities for work comp purposes. Which brings me to the reason for my visit, is that we've been celebrating our 30-year anniversary now for 4 years. We're like that relative that celebrates their birthday all month long. Well, we've been celebrating our 30-year anniversary for 4 years now. But with 500 members, it takes a while to get around and present plaques. So we've been making our rounds and presenting plaques to our members, thanking them for and appreciating them for their membership with the fund on a significant anniversary. And I actually have 2 plaques to present today. One is to Pennington County for celebrating their 25-year membership with the SDML Work Comp Fund, and then also for the Pennington County Fire Administration for 20 years membership with the SDML Work Comp Fund. So if, Mr. Chair, if I may approach and
I
present.
will have Commissioner Ross Connect come down there.
Okay. All right.
And I'll just point out that Brad Wilson, for the county, on the county side of it, he works with John Morrill. He works with Sandy Sortland. He works with Stephanie McCoy in the sheriff's office. But I've asked Commissioner Ross Connect to accept the plaque on behalf of the county.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Brad, on behalf of the county.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I'll leave this for safekeeping there.
As the sheath.
And then I would ask
As the thing that goes in.
Commissioner Hadcock also serves on the Fire Service Board. So I'd ask Commissioner Hadcock, and Brad normally works with Jerome Harvey relative to this. So I'd ask Commissioner Hadcock and Jerome Harvey to come forward to receive the plaque on behalf of the Fire Administration.
I think they need a step stool. Ollie, did you get them?
Thank you for your time.
We appreciate it. Brad has personnel in Sioux Falls, Mitchell, and Rapid City for perform these services. And it's statewide, as he indicated, with the 501 members, so keeps his office busy. Thank you, Brad. Appreciate it. Next item we have is our consent calendar. Holly Hennies.
Good morning, Commissioners. For public notice, the Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine items. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. Today's consent agenda contains the following items. Approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of April 6, 2021. Number 7 is to acknowledge the 2021 polling place list as the official polling locations for the June 8th, 2021 combined election. Number 8 is to acknowledge the election agreements and that the auditor's office will conduct a combined election for the Rapid City School District and the City of Hill City to be held on June 8th, 2021. Number 9 is to acknowledge the filing of petitions as application for organization of the proposed Hardesty Road District by the voters within the proposed district boundaries. Number 10 is to approve operating transfers from the general fund to the following funds: E911 fund in the amount of $402,304, the fire administration fund in the amount of $5,580, which are for the first half of the 2021 budgeted operating transfers. Number 11 is approval of the permit to occupy the right-of-way and the request for road closure / traffic control for the 2021 Rapid City Half Marathon submitted by Mr. Brandon Zelfer. Number 12 is approval of the second quarter 2021 local emergency planning grant as submitted by Emergency Management. Number 13 is to recognize and thank the volunteers for the month of March 2021. Number 14 is to postpone indefinitely consideration of the proposed drug-free workplace policy submitted by Human Resources. And finally, number 15 is approval of the joint powers agreement for weed spraying services between South Dakota Department of Transportation and Pennington County.
Are there any members of the public that wish to have any of these items removed from the consent calendar? Any commissioners that wish to have any items removed from the consent calendar?
Mr. Chair, item 13, please.
Item 13, Commissioner Ross Connect.
And
Any others?
Item 14.
And 14, Commissioner Adcock. Any others? If not, I would take a motion to approve 6 through 12 plus 15.
Move to approve.
I've got a motion by Commissioner Laster, second by Commissioner LaCroy. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 13, Mr. Ross Connect.
I just want to personally thank the volunteers. I don't know if people really know how many volunteers we have in the county and what they do, put their lives in jeopardy, responding to fires and emergency situations. So I just want to take this time to thank the volunteers that make the county what it is.
Chairman.
Very good. Commissioner Adcock.
On this list, it also has, usually don't put the volunteer fire department people on this list, but they are volunteers of Pennington County. So I appreciate everything they've done for us, including, again, the first responders and everybody. There's a lot of people that I know that go into the jails and different areas that actually help out Pennington County in many ways with counseling and just saving us time and taxpayer dollar doing that, plus giving to the community. So I'd like to thank all of them, all the people that do that for us, because it saves us, again, a lot of energy and a lot of time to take care of people that are in need of either emergency services or just some counseling for us. So thank you.
I would take a motion to approve item 13.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Laster, second by Commissioner LaCroy. Was it you?
I think
Ron?
Ross Connect.
Ron, did you
Right.
second?
Second.
Okay, I'm sorry. Second by Commissioner Ross Connect. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved. Item 14, Commissioner Adcock.
Mr. Scott Guffey, if you'd come up from our Natural Resource Director. This is just an informational question. A lot of people are calling you about weed and pest. And
I'm sorry, Commissioner Adcock. I think you have meant 15
You mean 15?
instead of 14.
Yes, not the drug-free. Now that we're talking about weed and pest.
Okay, so before we go there, then let me do this. So we relative to 14.
That's a
We've had a discussion on that. There's some changes that may take place between now in July 1st, and so that's why we've indefinitely postponed it. Will be coming back. So I would ask for a motion to approve item 14.
So
Move to
moved.
approve.
I've got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay? Approved. Thank you. Now, item 15, Commissioner Adcock. You can,
Okay,
you
we
can
won't
talk
talk
on it,
about
but it's been
weeds
approved.
anymore. Mr. Guffey, if you'd come up, we changed our department to Natural Resource Department, and this is our Natural Resource Director, so I just want people to kind of get that in their mind. Also, what we do in the Natural Resource Department, if we'd explain a little bit about what this Joint Powers Agreement does, and basically what we're doing with this agreement, sir.
Sure. Well, this is a good partnership we have with the state of South Dakota and the DOT, Department of Transportation. I think we've had this agreement with the DOT. It was in place before I got here, which was 23 years ago. And then when I worked as a seasonal for 3 years, we had it then. So it's probably goes back at least 30 years. Basically what we do is we spray the State Department of Transportation right away. The interstate, the state highways, for noxious weeds. So it's been a good partnership. Some counties, they contract it out with an applicator. I think it works better when you have a county doing it. So if they do have a complaint pop up, we can be there that same day or the next day to take care of that
Chair.
weed problem.
Commissioner Adcock.
Follow up. So how many types of noxious weeds do you guys spray?
There's 7 on the state list, and then Pennington County has 7 additional listed. So we have 14, and then there's other weeds that we don't have listed on our state or local list, but we're still actively controlling them because we don't want those to spread either. So
Thank you, Scott, because for my information also, I didn't know that they did everything that they do with timber and how they make their money through doing some timber cuts or picking up or slash files. So there's a lot of different areas that Natural Resource covers in Pennington County besides just spraying weeds. So we appreciate everything you do and your board. We have a really good board this year, and I think we always get off track a little bit because everybody, not just me, has something to share. So Commissioner DeSanto is on that board. He is now not on our board anymore, but he's been a big service to us and a blessing for that board as well. So thank you, Scott, for everything you do, and your people that work for your team is amazing. So what you guys do out there and how hard you work. So we appreciate you.
appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Scott.
Next item is 16, which is, I need a motion to go into executive session for pending litigation.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Hadcock, second by Commissioner Laster. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Need a motion to
Move to come out of
come out of
executive
executive session. I got a motion. Do I have a second? And a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Back into session. Cindy. I think Cindy's out. She's coming. Next item is for 9:15 public hearing, budget supplement, SP 21-004 resolution. Cindy Bowman.
Good morning, Commissioners. Cindy Moeller, Pennington County Auditor. And as was just stated, I have the budget supplement SP 21-004, and this is for the radio tower project. We are building a separate budget within the general fund in order to track those expenditures. And I know Ted is here if you have any questions in regards to that. And this is to supplement that budget for $1 million.
Okay, questions of Ted?
No?
Come on up, Ted. Not gonna just leave you sitting there.
It's all yours.
No problem.
Tell us about the radio project.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ted Rufflet with Pennington County 911. Real brief version, we've been dealing with radio system coverage problems in the central Pennington County area for about 20 years. We've implemented lots of various choices. And we're talking about when a deputy or a fireman or paramedic is out on foot in Keystone or Hill City or the Rockerville area, and they cannot talk to each other or us. And this past July 3rd, it kind of came to a head, and we had a lot of high-profile folks here, and the governor and the president was at Mount Rushmore, and the communication really was critical during what happened up there. And so Governor Noem kind of made a commitment then to support us in getting a permanent fix. And then the fix for that was to put up radio towers in those areas where there was no coverage and add them to the statewide system. So the South Dakota legislature appropriated a total of $3.2 million to help solve this problem. And so about 800,000 of that is for construction on a reimbursement basis. So as Pennington County pays site acquisition fees and construction costs and whatnot, then we'll send those paid bills to the state and they'll reimburse us. And so this budget will handle those funds, and that's what we're asking you to approve today.
Very good, Ted.
Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Adcock.
Just a question of Ted. So we have problems with like cell phones and stuff in that area. Are they going to have, like the cell phone providers going to be putting their antennas and stuff on there as well?
These towers are primarily being built for public safety, but once we're done with them, we would be open to co-location agreements, and we anticipate they probably will approach us and want to put equipment on there eventually, but that would be later, and that would sort of be a side benefit. Primarily, these are for public safety purposes.
Thank you, Ted.
That's good.
Further go ahead.
Thank you very much, Tim.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner LaCroix.
Move for approval.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. Who did I get the second from? Commissioner Lassiter. To approve the budget supplement resolution SB 21-004 for the general fund radio towers budget in the amount of $1 million. Any public comment regard to this? Seeing none, commission. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
The next
Item
item
D.
that I have, sorry about that, Gary, is the special request for a special retail on-sale malt beverage and wine license for Elevate Rapid City for an event that they're holding at the Fort Hays Chuck Wagon Supper and Show. Would ask approval of that special license.
So moved.
Got a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
Yes. Motion by Commissioner LaCroix, second by Commissioner Hadcock. Any comments relative to this? Don't have any speaker request forms. Back to the commission. Commission have any questions? Not? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Item number 18 is the, Jay is around here. I don't see him. There he is. Call on Jay Alderman.
Are we railroading it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Jay Alderman from the State's Attorney's Office. So it's been a while since we've talked about the Rushmore Regional Railroad Authority. And because of that, the commission that was elected by the representatives, those terms have all lapsed. So we need to start over. That hasn't been a problem because when we originally started this back in 2014 or something, Holly, there was some interest, there were some projects that were kind of on the horizon being talked about, meaning rail projects. But we haven't had anything go through, haven't had any requests. But Holly and I just noticed that time has lapsed, the commission's terms have lapsed, and it'd probably be wise for us to get it going again, at least have it in place so that if something does come forward, we're ready to go. So a little background real quick. 2 or more government entities can come together and form a railroad authority. Pennington County did that with the City of Rapid City, City of Box Elder, and City of Wall. So 4 of you came together and agreed to form it. And then you have it, it's all been, we filed it with the Secretary of State. So it's all of record, and what happens by statute is each entity is called a member of the authority. So Pennington County is a member. City of Rapid City is a member of the Regional Railroad Authority. Each member has to appoint representatives, and these are all terms that are in our state code. You have to appoint representatives to represent that member in the authority. The role of the representatives is to come together and elect a commission. Finally, the commission is the body that runs the railroad authority. So we're starting over with today, we're asking you, and as it turns out, Pennington County gets 2 representatives. City of Rapid City, Box Elder, and Wall get 1 each for a total of 5 representatives. Those representatives will hold a public meeting and elect 5 commissioners to run the railroad authority, and that's all going to happen down the road. Holly has a request out to those other 3 members to do the same thing we're asking you to do here today, to appoint representatives so we can get together. The representatives also by statute have alternatives. So obviously if the primary representative is sick, on vacation, can't come to a meeting, their alternative can show up and act in their stead. So what we're asking you to do today is to pick among you 2 representatives and 2 alternatives. So 4 people today, 2 representatives, 2 alternatives, and you can do it by motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Lassiter,
I'd be interested in serving on that commission as a primary.
I'd make that motion that
Second.
Commissioner Lassiter be one of the primary representatives. And a second for the discussion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Anybody else want to step up and volunteer?
I'll do it.
Commissioner LaCroy, I'll make that motion.
I'd second.
LaCroy, and I have a second by Commissioner Lassiter. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Alternate representatives? You interested?
How many times a year do you gotta meet?
Oh, what do you think, Holly? 4 or 5 dozen times?
Probably daily.
I'm thinking at least 12.
Put me down as an alternate.
I'll be number 4 alternate.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we select alternate representatives of Commissioner Roskinick and Commissioner Hadcock. Is there a second?
Second.
And so I have a second from Commissioner LaCroy. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Pretty willing partners up here.
You feel left out?
I don't feel left out at all, actually. So, okay, number 19, Building Committee. Mike Cool. Did you bring friends today, Mike? Okay, that's good. Okay.
Good morning. Mike Cool, Director of Buildings and Grounds. This is an item that I brought to you at your last commission meeting as a recommendation from the Building Committee. I'm seeking authorization to enter a design contract with Upper Deck Architects for the crisis stabilization facility project, which would be located behind the CARE campus in the open green area that we have back there. Earlier this year, the Pennington County Sheriff's Office and Health and Human Services prepared a project summary to seek funding through the state. The state has granted $4.6 million towards this project for design and construction. The Building Committee supports and recommends that the board allow this project to move forward. I'm here to bring that request to you. Give you a little more information in regard to the contract. It would involve standard architectural services for the amount of $245,000. We have to do a planned development submittal as part of the work on that site, which has fees of $25,600, and then we also are having the design team provide electronic as-built documents for the project for a total of $277,920 for design fees with Upper Deck Architects. I also have if there are questions in regard to how the facility will be used in the programs. I believe we have members from the sheriff's office, behavioral health, health and human services, all here to respond to questions.
Commissioner Adcock.
Yes, it says these fees do not include any anticipated reimbursed expenses or taxes. Those would be billed at 1.10 times their direct cost to Upper Deck. So,
Normally, that's a standard thing, I guess. We haven't set an amount for that. We carry a budget for that, so that's probably in the $20,000 range.
just so, yeah, thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner LaCroy.
I'm gonna make a motion, but I'd still like, we got enough people here. I'd like to hear if they have anything to say, but I'd make the motion to approve design contract for the crisis stabilization facility with Upper Deck Architects, Inc. with the amount of $277,920. And further move to authorize Buildings and Grounds Director Mike Cool to have the project design and administrative decision-making authority to include signing documents related to land use or similar project matters, and to the expenditure authority up to $50,000 on Pennington County representative.
I have a motion by Commissioner LaCroy. Is there a second? Drews will second.
Second,
Further discussion?
Chairman.
Commissioner Adcock.
Just a couple questions. We do have a resolution on the board, on our dais here. I've had questions from other commissioners that were on our board before, and people in our community that Pennington County shouldn't take the brunt of paying and building a crisis stabilization unit. Based on a resolution that we have set before, it says, whereas the mental health crisis is much larger than one person, entity, or organization, all stakeholders must come together, including private organizations, cities, counties, the state, and its legislature combined effort to provide additional mental health services in western South Dakota. So the state provided us, if I'm correct, Sheriff Tome, $4.6 million. And if you could tell us all the stakeholders and all the people that are involved with, maybe Barry speaking as well, and then some of those stakeholders are here today. So people understand this isn't just about Pennington County, this is about western South Dakota and a mental health facility. So that would kind of lead into what Mr. LaCroy kind of wanted, if I'm correct, sir, about what's going on with this.
Yes.
Go on forward.
Well, good morning. Kevin Tome, Pennington County Sheriff, and let everybody else introduce themselves, and then I'll answer your question there to help answer the question as well, and also, I think, show you the strength of our collaborative partnership, so.
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Linda Wright-Kilber. I'm the CEO of Behavior Management Systems here in Rapid City, South Dakota, the local community mental health center. We provide services in 10 counties in western South Dakota.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Linda.
Good morning. Alan Solano. I'm the president and CEO of the John T. Vukovich Foundation.
Thank you, Alan.
Good morning, Barry Tice, the Director of Pennington County Health and Human Services.
Thanks, Barry.
And just briefly, Commissioner Hancock, thank you for referencing the resolution, and that was in 2019, summer of 2019. I think we followed the spirit of that resolution as we move forward. Barry can talk about the National Council on Behavioral Health and their study and what that showed in terms of a best path forward. So this has been a multi-year project and process. I agree it should not fall solely on Pennington County. Pennington County should be one of the partners. Pennington County stepped up in a big way with funding on the CARE campus, and it's incumbent on all their other stakeholders and partners that they be part of this. And the state and the legislature did their part by getting us the $4.6 million that'll pay for the construction. The county's providing, of course, the land and the oversight, and it'll be operated by Behavior Management Systems. So it's a public-private partnership, which is really the strength of what we do. So it's not additional FTEs for the county. It's run by BMS, and Alan and Barry can talk a little bit about the kind of the budget we've constructed. But I know, Barry, you want to talk about the National Council study? Sure.
Back in 2018 is when we worked with the Helmsley Foundation to contract with the National Council for Behavioral Health on a study to look at behavioral health services in western South Dakota. And they unveiled that report in October of 2019. And during the summer of 2019, with former Senator Solano's, he chaired one of the summer studies or the task force that looked at behavioral health services in the state. And so a lot of effort has been put into this over many years. And as Sheriff Tone mentioned, when it comes to collaborative relationships, in that resolution, it really highlights everybody that we continue to partner with and have for years, whether it was the Crisis Care Center, the Care Campus, and now the Stabilization Unit. And so when the National Council unveiled their suggestions for our community, the Behavioral Health Alliance, which consists of upwards of 30 to 40 representatives from various entities in our community and across the state, came together, had the opportunity to research the 13 recommendations, with really the number one recommendation being the Crisis Stabilization Unit. And so a lot of work between 2019 and now has been put forth in this. And I'll let Alan or Linda.
Barry, can I ask you a question? Can you tell me why you guys did and Sheriff, the Crisis Stabilization Unit, what their needs are and what is basically going to be in the Crisis Stabilization Unit building?
Sure. Currently with the Crisis Care Center, we keep our individuals are there for less than 24 hours, and we provide them services to get them stabilized so they can be returned back in the community and link them with resources in the community, housing, medications, et cetera. What the Crisis Stabilization Unit would do, and I'm going to use another term here, what was in the Senate Bill 144, the $4.6 million from the state of South Dakota, was a appropriate regional facility. And legislature in the state was changed the last few years so that appropriate regional facilities could be set up across the state of South Dakota. And appropriate regional facility makes it possible so that individuals can stay longer than 24 hours. It's actually 23 hours and 59 minutes currently what we keep individuals in the Crisis Care Center. So individuals will be able to stay up to 5 days to get stabilized, to have individual therapy, family therapy, group therapy, get medication assistance, and et cetera, so that these individuals possibly do not need to go to the emergency room, Monument Health, other hospitals in our region. And the state has designated 11 counties in western South Dakota that would be appropriate for an ARF, appropriate regional facility. So Senate Bill 144 provided the funding, $4.6 million to build that facility. We were currently in that facility. There would be the capacity to have 8 slots, call them what you will, that we currently have for the Crisis Care Center. But in addition to that, it would have 16 rooms that would be able to have individuals. We would be able to provide services to them for more than 24 hours, up to 5 days. So there would be a total of 24 beds, i.e. beds capacity in the appropriate regional facility.
So Chair, one more question.
Commissioner Adcock.
So what is it different than behavior management systems that we need to have a crisis stabilization instead of just use your facility?
The Crisis Care Center that's in the Care Campus right now just keeps individuals for less than 24 hours. There are individuals who would need to have more in-depth services and be able to have services for up to 5 days. Other services that Behavior Management Systems provides, we don't have the capacity to be able to be an ARF. It would have to be an expansion of the current crisis beds that we have at the Care Campus right now.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Jump in on that, Alan.
If I could, just
Yes, go
quickly,
ahead, Senator.
Commissioner Hadcock, on your last question, so when the Crisis Care Center was designed back in 2010, we knew that less than 24-hour stay would not allow somebody that is on a mental health hold or petition to go into that facility because state law at that time required all of those individuals to be admitted into an appropriate regional facility. At that time, the only appropriate regional facilities was Monument or Regional Hospital back then, their behavioral health inpatient, Avera had inpatient, St. Luke's in Aberdeen has a small inpatient, and then Human Services Center. So the change in state law that opened up the ability for appropriate regional facilities to be beyond inpatient hospitals really started initiating this opportunity to do this. Now we just have to start building the structures around that, and then to work on more seamless integration than somebody coming into the crisis care center being able to have that up to 24-hour observation. But if they come in on a mental health hold or petition, rather than the domino effect now of having that person having to go to the emergency room and having to go to the inpatient psychiatric hospital, now avoiding hopefully those two locations, coming directly into the crisis stabilization unit.
Kind of
So-
like we did with the Care Campus, one stop for, instead of moving people all the way around and having 10 different services try to figure out what to do with someone, we can actually take care of that person, which in this case for mental health is a huge barrier if you can break that and just stick them or put people in an area that they can get help directly.
Exactly. And I might just, if it's okay, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely, go ahead.
So we know that in Pennington County, we had in 2019 about 1,400 involuntary petitions or mental health petitions for individuals. So these are people that are already going through our system. So don't, try to avoid the idea that we're talking a new demographic of folks coming in. So these will be a lot of the folks that we're currently having to go to the emergency room, be admitted into inpatient hospitalization. And then when we talk about that domino effect, so now they're in the inpatient psychiatric hospital for these short stays, but that prevents the resource being available for individuals in our area that need a longer term stay. So the domino effect is those individuals then are sent to the Human Services Center. So you can kind of see how this starts to stack up when we don't have that more full continuum of care where we can treat folks locally. And we believe that the crisis stabilization unit takes pressure off of the inpatient hospital. They can treat people longer, and we can really try to avoid shipping our people across the state to the Human Services Center.
Commissioner Lassiter.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask right along that line. I worked at regional health, well, back when it was regional. And my question was going to be, what is going to be the reduction on the emergency room staff and the inpatient intake load, if you will, because these are ones that are identified but may not need that long-term care as they're identified. They're just going to be, are they going to come over there to the center as well via ambulance as well? I mean, they're going to be picked up, triaged and figured out what's going on and potentially coming straight over in that manner. Is that right?
Yeah, so if there's not a medical need
Right.
for them to be taken to the emergency department, we would want individuals to come to the crisis stabilization unit if they're there for a psychiatric reason. I'll just give you maybe a few stats. And
Please do.
So I talked about the nearly 1,400 that had been gone through the involuntary commitment process. It's about 130, 140 of those individuals in 2019 that actually stayed for 5 or more days in inpatient hospitalization. So you can see how this can reduce down if we can get up to a 5-day stay for individuals. Of those nearly 1,400 petitions, only I believe 132, 135 right in there. So about 10% actually make it to an involuntary commitment hearing. So again, we'll be able to, we're trying to divert people and then really use the advantage that we have currently with the Crisis Care Center of getting people linked back into community-based care. Because that's ultimately, is the end goal, is to make sure people are fully linked into care in the community so they can avoid the involuntary process.
Mr. Chair.
1 second, Commissioner LaCroix first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I think the work is amazing, and all of you guys up there, during the Strength and Families Task Force and the Community Needs Assessment back in 2007, 2008, mental health was one of the highest ones on the marks, and Alan, then the group broke off and started the Crisis Care Center off of North Street, and now it's here. Our community is doing amazing things and has been for quite a while, and it's just coming to fruition now. We talked about the one-stop center, Now, over on Mall Drive, we're gonna have all those facilities into one spot. We got this across the street that's gonna be just a stepping stone for everybody, because we all know that the needs are there, and to be able to do a handoff right next door and to have them back in our local community where their families are, because a lot of, to me, that's one of the biggest thing is with the 5 days, you'll be able to keep them there to get them stabilized, their families here, they can come visit and get everything set up. And so the wraparound network has really come to fruition in this community. Now, I just have to point out, you know, our community, I mean, our campus, I mean, National Association of Counties got the Achievement Award from the criminal justice. We've been recognized for the work that we do. We were all available when Christy Nome come and visited our facility, and she sees how our community is coming together and works hard, and that's why they invested in us. You know, it really is. And so I just wanted to make that point that this just didn't happen overnight. This has been in the works for 14 years, if not longer. You know, it may have come to fruition now, but, you know, I know Alan and Barry and Kevin and you guys have been working on it for years, and I just appreciate all your guys' determination and hard work in moving this forward.
Commissioner Roskinek.
You know, we mentioned communities, we mentioned area, we mentioned demographics, we mentioned counties. When this is built, this is going to serve western South Dakota, and I think the counties in western South Dakota are the stakeholders here, and they need to help participate to keep this facility running once we get it built under the governor's $4.6 million. And I think we might want to consider calling this the Western South Dakota Crisis Stabilization Center, so that we cover western South Dakota, because there will be people from other counties coming to this facility, although it's going to be located in Rapid City.
Chairman.
I totally agree with that. It's to serve the 11 counties in western South Dakota, and we're all in this together, because having this ARF, appropriate regional facility, is going to benefit all when they're established in all of South Dakota, but especially the residents of the western South Dakota.
Commissioner Adgard.
I guess the main thing is the taxpayer dollars that everybody sometimes is worried about. And I'll keep saying, like we did it's your children, it's your wife, it's different people that use this facility. But the bottom line is, for taxpayer dollar, again, if you're having a place where people aren't having to go 3 different places and they can get services, number one, in western South Dakota, let alone in a one-stop place, kind of like we did the CARE campus, it does the same particular savings for people, transporting people 3 different places, let alone, again, you have people with mental health that the more you move them, or the more it makes them more unstabilized. So a well-needed service, a well-funded taxpayer dollar facility that will, I think, in the long run, show all of western South Dakota how much money you can save by having a facility like this. And again, I think Commissioner LaCroix put that out there, and they don't have to go to eastern part of the state. The main thing I kept hearing from mothers and people in the beauty industry that I'm in is, I have to go all the way across the state to visit my son or my daughter, and we're going to do that, but we'd like them here, and they feel more comfortable if they were in the area where they came from as well. So there's just many parts and pieces, like Commissioner LaCroix said, that bring this into like he said, amazing facility. And unless you've ever had friends or family or listened to people how much this means to them, you guys did a great job by bringing your resources together and getting this done. So thank you to you all.
I think the ultimate goal here is to create healthy lives. And we know that we face a lot of challenges in the mental health field. That mental health field not only involves the victim of it, but also family and friends and the community as a whole. And so I think this is a very positive step forward of being able to try to work on those issues This probably isn't the total answer. We need to continue on, but this is a great addition to what we currently have. So I thank you all for being here. Kevin, you have some other
Just make
comments?
one final comment, and when we went through the legislative process this last year, we got the attention of the rest of the state, and with the change in the law that Alan referenced, the appropriate regional facility, it's gonna allow for this to be a model for other communities in the state, and they've already asked about, our business plan, our model, how we're doing it, so, this is gonna be more the norm, and having one human services center in Yankton trying to serve the entire state just isn't practical. So once again, you'll see Panic County used as a model for other parts of the state.
Awesome, thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. I do have a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion by the commission? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Thank you,
Mike, do you have 4 more people you're hiring?
They're working.
Thanks,
Item
Mike.
20, Dustin Willett.
Good morning, Commission. Dustin Willett, Pennington County Emergency Manager. So all things COVID related, let me just start by piggybacking and saying as a citizen, as just a resident of this community, and then as an employee of Pennington County, what's happened across the street, the Care Campus, Crisis Care, One Heart, stabilization, all of that as a citizen and as an employee gives me great pride. I think the county's doing amazing things with mental health, and it's awesome to see. So just kudos. Not that it
Thanks,
means
Dustin.
much, but kudos. It's awesome to see. All right. COVID. In the last few weeks, we've hovered between active cases in Pennington County. We've been as low as 112, as high as about 164. I think today we're at 152. So we're just kind of waffling around, up a few, down a few, and that appears to be kind of the general outlook right now. We're kind of on a razor's edge as we continue to vaccinate and as very infectious variants move through the community. So it's right now we're just at this balancing act between the spread of the virus and our ability to build immunity to it. Now, whether that immunity is from vaccination and or even recovering from having the active virus, but again, right now we're just balancing that immunity with the virus's desire and intent to spread. That's what viruses do. We currently have 11 patients in Monument Health System, and again, that system is wide and it brings patients in from a wide area. So, but that number 11 is certainly 11 more than we'd want to see. But it's not the 100 plus that strains the ever living bejesus out of our healthcare system. So, in terms of that, that's not a bad number. Certainly, we'd like to see it lower. Department of Health has Pennington County rated as a moderate spread. The weekly positivity rate in tests conducted is sitting at 8%. Again, nationally, the number that's been thrown out as what we want to see is under 5. So maybe sometime soon we'll get under that 5%. Right now, again, moderate spread at 8% positivity. In terms of numbers in the vaccine side of things, we've got in Pennington County 27,600 or so full, either the single Johnson & Johnson or the dual Moderna or Pfizer. So about 27,000 folks that are fully vaccinated, 34,000 that have had at least one of the 2 series. So and then again, I estimate, I go to the site that tracks numbers that includes DOD and VA, because those numbers aren't reported to the state, they're reported nationally. So again, just looking at some percentages, my office has estimated that Pennington County right now is sitting probably at about 35.5% of its population vaccinated against COVID-19. South Dakota, population-wise, at least one dose. I think we're over 50%. The nation, I think, just celebrated the mark of being over 50%. So moving in the correct direction there. In terms of variants, I know some variants questions were asked last time. The last report that was released by the South Dakota Department of Health had, I think, identified 38 cases of the UK variant in South Dakota.
but as Commissioner Lassiter asked for clarification last time, not every single COVID case is being analyzed for what variant it is. It's actually a really small percentage. So the best estimation by folks right now is that UK variant is the predominant variant of COVID that's spreading in all of our communities across the country. The one demographic that's concerning is, and we're seeing this play out across the nation, it's certainly playing out in South Dakota as well, and that is we did a fantastic job of pushing that vaccine out to the most at-risk population, which for COVID-19 was the older folks. So we started with the older folks, and we've been working backwards. We've done a fantastic job of vaccinating those that were most at risk, but what we've seen over like the last 6 weeks or so, the last month, is about a 7% relative increase in cases in that 20 to 29-year-old range. Viruses spread, viruses infect. That's what they do on this planet. That's what they are genetically encoded to do. As we take options away from viruses, viruses look for other options. So as we are successful in our vaccination of older adults, we see that virus infecting more and more younger folks. So the hope is that the trend continues, that the younger folks that contract COVID don't necessarily have quite the severity of disease that the older folks have. But it's still a concerning number, and what that means is debatable. But one of the interesting places, I think we're again right at one of those inflection points where supply and demand on the COVID vaccine are again at that tipping point. So I spent a really quick amount of time this morning. I jumped on Monument site, I jumped on Walgreens site, and there's appointments available today, tomorrow, the next day. So at this point, there's not a big, long waiting queue of people banging at the door wanting to get their vaccine. If you want to be vaccinated, there are appointments available. So we're right at that point where supply and demand are about equal. And so as we move forward, the hope is that folks that are on the fence, or folks that have not initiated any type of activity to get vaccine, seriously consider that and make that decision for themselves. And again, the current literature, the current best practice, the current guidance is for folks to go get vaccinated. It's safe and it's effective. Just a little follow-up at the flu. Crazy flu season, as in non-existent flu season. And I think anecdotally that can be attributed to everybody's heightened awareness of infection control. You know, people are distancing, people are washing their hands, people are cognizant of the way pathogens transmit. And I think we're seeing that reflected in our flu numbers. So last week, April 10th, we'd had a total of 66 lab-confirmed cases of flu in South Dakota and 192 additional rapid tests, the swab that you get really, really quick. Those don't get sent and confirmed at the state lab. So we've had 66 lab-confirmed and 192 rapid confirmed, with a total of 7 hospitalizations and 2 deaths in this flu season that we're currently in.
Dustin, is the test the same for COVID as flu? I mean, if they
no,
it's totally separate.
They're different tests. Different tests. By comparison, 2018, 2019, which is the data set that's available, we were sitting at just under 10,000, so 9,555 cases, 653 hospitalizations, and 43 deaths. So you compare, again, a couple hundred cases, 7 hospitalizations, and 2 deaths, to 10,000 cases, over 600 hospitalizations, and 43 deaths. There's just the flu season this year is pretty much non-existent.
Dustin, just a quick question on that, and this just came to mind as you're talking about that. Any of these individuals that are coming in with COVID, are they even testing them to flu to see if they have flu as maybe a secondary complication?
So I don't know what the protocol is when folks come in with certain symptomology in terms of what tests they're giving them. I know that my family, we had a bug move through the house a week or so ago, and out of an abundance of caution, and because the tests are available, we went and got tested for COVID just to make sure. But there specifically, we just wanted to make sure it wasn't COVID, so we did the rapid COVID tests, and everything was fine. So I think, I don't know if you come in with symptomology, whether or not they're testing you for COVID and the flu or just COVID. I don't know what those protocols are per individual clinics.
Okay, thanks.
Those were the numbers that I put together. Again, pretty brief and high level, but certainly happy to stand for any questions and I
Sure.
research anything you
Commissioner
might have.
Roskinek?
Dustin, I don't watch a lot of TV, but not only is it easier to get your COVID shot, but there are incentives, and the one I saw on a commercial in the last few days was you take your card and show that you got the COVID shot, they'll give you a free Budweiser. So there is an incentive if you haven't got your COVID shot yet.
Thanks for sharing that, Commissioner. If you watch little TV, I probably watch less. So thank you for sharing.
So
that.
Dustin, those under 16, if they would like to have the vaccination, can they do it now or no?
Not yet. So in South Dakota, any South Dakotan 16 years or older can make their appointment and get the vaccine. The push right now is to test and get a use exemption for younger folks. They're really trying hard for that. Pfizer is probably in the lead in terms of the study and the testing that they've been doing. And I think right now the best guess, and that's what we've been doing for over a year now, is best guess. But the best guess that I've heard for vaccinating at least down to 12, potentially younger, but at least down to 12, is I've heard late fall, early spring. So that's the best timeline I've heard.
Not really a question for Dustin, but do we have still a mask mandate in the building still?
There never was a mask mandate. It was
No.
department dependent, and yes, the treasurer's office still has theirs in place.
Because most places that I'm going in is recommended, and we have people that are complaining that they have to wear a mask. And with the shots and everything else going on, I think it should maybe be changed to recommended at this point for even the treasurer, because of people going in the building, or if you're even a commissioner or anybody and people see you going the left side, they're like, that person doesn't have it. So I'm having complaints that way. So like I said, most places that I've been has been recommended. It hasn't been a mandatory thing, or they have to wear it in a certain area. So just food for thought for this commission and for treasurer's office.
We've given that authority to each of the departments to determine on their own, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Dustin. Appreciate it. Shannon Rittberger. As Shannon's coming up here, I noticed, Dustin, do you two talk to each other, coordinate your dress for the day, or do you actually go shopping together?
So we don't coordinate, but I will say that Shannon shares a passion for Garcia ties, and we have commented on each other's Garcia ties more than once over the years.
And we'd like it noted that Jay is out of dress code.
Thanks, Dustin. Shannon.
Okay, so I've got two abatement requests that my office brings to you, and these are simple mistakes on the part of my office. There's two properties here. They both involve an owner-occupied classification. One property owner applied, qualifies, applied timely, and we just simply never applied it to the property and don't know why. The other one applied, qualified, had it on the property, and we can't figure out why it dropped off. We'd like to blame it on computer, but we don't have a good answer, and this the abatement request fixes it.
So do I have a motion?
Move to approve both. Do you need a motion for them both?
No, let's do them individually. They're different
Individual?
amounts, so.
I'd make the motion to approve the abatement application for tax year 2020 for Larry Hamlet, parcel 2660 in the amount of $545.18.
Second.
Got a motion and a second for the discussion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Lassiter.
Oh, never mind. Go ahead, Lloyd. I don't want to cut you off. Sorry.
No, go. I was just going to do the motion, but you're going to do it? Go ahead.
I was.
Go ahead.
All right, move to approve the abatement applications for tax year 2018, 2019, and 2020 for Dante Dudley, parcel 67-256, in the amount of $2,839.02.
Second.
And a second. So Shannon, I presume you don't care if we don't have the fact that you made a mistake in those motions? Just all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Thank you.
I should have
You're
put
doing a lot of
operator error on
mistakes
there.
today.
Two, it's only two so far today.
That's a lot in one, like, sitting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Next item, 22, Superintendent Joe Miller, Highway Department.
Good morning, Commission. Joe Miller, Pennington County Highway Department. First up in front of you here is a change order for our sand salt storage facility. The first part of that is due to some geotechnical engineering that had been done prior or post-letting. They did a geotechnical analysis, which was in the contract. The contractor had to do that at their cost. The geotech then said that the report came back that, hey, you need to add another 1 foot of engineered fill, which is base course, to make sure that the floor of this in the building is stable. That's where the majority of that cost comes from. The second part of that change order is an oversight on our part, and then in getting a additive to the concrete to make sure it holds up to the salt that's going to be stored in it. So that's a oversight on our part prior to letting. So we'd like to get that added as well. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Questions?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner LaCroix.
Well, I'm glad they got these now, and I'm glad they did the geo report so that I appreciate how thorough you guys are, because, you know, our buildings do last for a long time, and this is part of the reason why. You know, we take that extra step and find out that we need that base course so the floor is going to hold up, and then the additive for the concrete, so.
Thank you.
Chair,
Is there a motion? Commissioner Adcock.
move to approve change order number 1 in the amount of $114,483.97 for the sand salt storage facility.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Adcock, second by Commissioner Lassiter, to approve. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
All right, next up, South Rockford Road, funding or repurposing of the funding opportunity here. 3 weeks ago, I believe, Gary Drews received a letter from Secretary of Transportation, I believe is Joel Junt, of an opportunity to repurpose the federal funding for South Rockford Road. Now, there was a date on that letter. That date, we don't have to make a decision today. Gary and I have been in 2 or 3 meetings with the state and Federal Highway, going over some of our options for the repurposing of this funding. I'll start with just a little bit of a timeline, I guess. You know, South Rockford Road, the approved county federal aid surface transportation program resolution was back May 18th of 2004. So we're coming up on almost 18 years now, if I did my math right, 17 years that this has been in progress. So a good chunk of that was due to the environmental restrictions that were being worked through with this project. That was a good, probably 10-year chunk of that. Since I've been in position here the last 2.5 years, we've worked very diligently to try and get this project, much like Sheridan Lake, to bid letting. This one's had quite a few more hurdles. Here most recently, we've been in talks with one of the landowners on South Rockford Road. We've come to an agreement with him. We just got some details to work out on that last one. So this project should move forward at a good pace. Our drop dead date to get the funding obligated that's available for repurposing would be September 30th. Now, there's a lot of different things that we've got to get to obligate those fundings. There's an MOU that is up for, or that's actually expired now with the tribes, and that's being worked through right now. That's what we believe is one of the biggest hurdles. There's 7 tribes that got to sign off on that. The spokesperson that was the spokesperson for Rosebud Sioux Tribe is no longer there. Now they've got a new spokesperson that we're trying to get worked into the position and getting caught up to speed. there's just a lot of moving parts with this. I'll get into the funding opportunities here. We sent out, I sent out an email for some clarification on things. The first question I asked was if these funds were to be repurposed to Sheridan Lake Road, which has some federal funding in it through the SIB loan, would the 1.4 million that's been expended to date need to be repurposed? The answer to that is if South Roxford doesn't get built as designed currently, yes, the county would have to repay that $1.4 million. Would essentially make that 1.4 or the total federal funding whole again, would make that $8.2 million that would be available for repurposing to Sheridan Lake Road. The next question I asked, the total monies available for the repurposing during our meetings that Gary and I had with the state and federal highway was 6.7. There's a little bit of a discrepancy, so the actual estimated funds eligible for repurposing is about $6.5 million. I already went over that. So we had a little bit different records as far as the total monies. We had 8.8, so we got some clarification on that. The obligation funding is only 90% of that, their authority, so that's where the 8.2 comes in. The next question we asked, so if this money is repurposed to Sheridan Lake Road in lieu of the SIB loan, would the state then grant an SIB loan for South Rochford Road to build the project as designed? And the question, or the answer is yes, we could then get an SIB loan to build build South Rochford Road as designed currently. The reason for the repurposing or the conversation is there's another highway bill coming down the pipeline that the funding is at risk of being pulled. We don't know that risk. They made that very clear that yes, they could grant an extension, but they very well could pull any and all grants prior to X date or X number of years old. They could say your money's no longer obligated, and then Pennington County is pretty much out $6.5 million that we just don't have anymore. We'd have to come up with that out of our budget to pay for South Rochford. We then asked a question. If we were to repurpose this funds to Sheridan Lake Road, could we then build South Rochford Road maybe to a lesser extent? Maybe turn a $12 million project into a $6 million project. The answer we got to that was essentially yes, you still need to follow all the environmental guidelines though. So there is that option as well. But if we do that option, that $1.4 million needs to be repaid back. If we build it as designed currently and still repurpose those funds to Sheridan Lake Road, the 1.4 would not need to be paid back. So we just take that $6.5 million, put it to Sheridan, and then we could build South Rochford Road with an SIB loan. There's still some details to be worked out. We don't need a motion from the board necessarily today, but we would like some sort of direction as far as what other details would you like us to pursue?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Roskinek.
One of the things I'd like to do, Joe, is to bring everybody up. This has transpired for so long. I'd like just a brief summary of the history. So the South Rochford Road, technically, although it's not paved, there has been a lot of work done. Now, we got a bridge that's getting built for about $900,000. Yeah. And that's going to happen. Yep. So, and we weren't going to do any paving until that bridge was built. So that bridge is supposed to be complete in 2021.
Yeah, I believe the deadline for that completion is September or October, Sean? September 30th. Okay, probably sooner than that with the weather. So
then the rest of the scope of the project was to pave from that bridge to Mrs. Alexander's house, roughly 9 miles.
Yes, roughly.
And so that 9 miles, how many parcels of property did the county have to purchase?
We purchased, I believe it was 24 parcels, Sean? I wasn't, Sean did most of the right-of-way acquisition on that. 24 to 27.
We
that is.
purchased 24 to 27 properties. We got a bridge that's getting built, and we've got a design. So
Just
we're
the
not,
right-of-ways.
we're not totally starting from scratch, so.
Right.
Those are just.
We've
not-
done a lot of work so far.
Sorry, sir, not the properties, just the right-of-ways to those properties.
Well, when I say acquisition, I'm talking right away, not.
Right, we've purchased the right-of-way
Right.
for the project, correct.
So, we've gone a long way, so. We just have to sit down and figure out how we can save the taxpayers the most amount of money and still get South Rochford Road paved in the future.
Mr. Chair. Commissioner LaCroy.
Joe, thanks for the update, and personally, thanks for all the hard work on this. I mean, I think in the last 4 or 5 years, when you come on, I mean, you guys have really been busting tail trying to get this moving because it has stalled quite a few times, and for several different reasons. One is, again, was the bridge, and then having to do another environmental impact when it had to be moved after things were planned. I mean, there's just been one thing after the other. I appreciate the way you explained it today because, this road is very important. I mean, we had a house full of people here. They still support this. And I wouldn't be in support at this time of transferring the money out of it because, quite frankly, when you clarify this is what it's for, let's do it. That's what it's for. I mean, yes, it's 14 years, but I think you've made a lot of progress, and I think we can get it there. That's just my thoughts on it. I understand if it comes down to the line and we have to transfer it in order to save 1.4 million, I don't want to have to cost the taxpayer 1.4. I mean, that decision, when it comes, I'll have to make that. But my thought is I don't like repurposing when something's been designated for that.
I think the intent is on the transfers that way, we've got the money, we've got it spent, we've got it committed. We take away the risk of losing that through a new highway bill. And so the idea of trying to work these projects basically together and all the safeguards are being put in place. Joe and his staff have worked hard to make sure that we're doing everything above board, that there's no questions to be asked at the end as to whether or not you perform correctly on it or not. And I think the goal is still to get the project to South Rochford done in a timely fashion. And if that means moving some of those funds over to Sheridan Lake Road for the time being, and then making up for those funds, it's not new funds, making up for those funds out of the state, not paying the penalty if possible. That's the goal of getting through this.
Yeah, he did a good job explaining that. I was just letting you know that that's what, if it comes to that, I'd support it too.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Roskinek.
I'm just going to read one sentence from the letter that Joel wrote that kind of really gives me some direction going forward here. And the sentence is the current approved performance end date expires April the 15th, 2021, and we are again at risk of denial for another extension. In addition to this risk, the current federal funding bill is set to expire on September 30th, 2021, and there again is a greater risk of the funding for this 16-year-old set-aside being reclined. So, I mean, Joel is basically saying, I'm warning you guys, better do something.
So this is Joel Junt. This is the Secretary of South Dakota Department of Transportation that Ron's quoting.
So
Commissioner Adcock.
he has said that since I've been on this commission, since we started, about losing it. So sent us letters, told us that we we're going to lose it before. But the bottom line is you can say that and he could say that, but that hasn't happened in all these years. Number two, I think what you're doing with it and how you're doing it just to get it moved forward is a positive way. Bottom line is when we were here before, when I first started, we had tons of people in this room. We had tons of meetings that I have went to in Hill City and other places, us commissioners have, that were here before, and the people want this done. Hill City wanted it done. So the main thing, Joe, is they want their road done. There is some opposition in some people, but the businesses in the areas, a lot of the neighbors wanted it done. So how that gets done as quick as we can do it, I mean, we were supposed to get this done before Sheridan Lake. So efficient and effective. You have been with this. Again, Joel has warned us before, I think at least 3 times if I'm correct, and I have met with him a few times in peer and otherwise that he threatened to take the money. So the main thing, Joel, is to think about the people on this road that have been wanting this road, and we keep delaying it for other reasons. So if we can get it done, that's our bottom line, and how we get it done with your efficient and your effectiveness, I'm in agreement with where you're going forward.
Yeah, I don't think the decision lies solely with Joel, if I understand correctly. It stands with the House of Representatives and the Senate of the United States, with the
Right.
highway bill. So, we all know how legislators
You got a different
work.
administration too.
Right, exactly. So, I think we can run down some more of the details on how we guarantee that we get an SIB loan for South Rochford to build that as designed. And we can work through those details to make sure that if we do choose to repurpose these funds to Sheridan Lake Road, to make sure we use them up, we still get the project built.
That's the bottom line, Joe.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Any further questions of Joe? Thanks, Joe, and we'll be anticipating that we'll be needing to make a decision at our next meeting.
Yes. It'll come.
Thank you.
We'll bring it back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So I need a motion now to move into Board of Adjustment.
Have a motion for a 5-minute break, please.
Okay, we got a motion for a 5-minute break and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I need a motion to go into Board of Adjustment.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Cody, it looks like you're up.
Okay. Item A is variance VA 21-04. It's to allow a double-wide manufactured home as a single-family residence in a 65-70 decibel noise level zone. The applicant is Kyle Brown. The landowner is Martin and Diane Nelson. The property is 3.36 acres in suburban residential zoning. Staff is recommending denial of variance VA 21-04 as there's no special conditions that exist on the property. When approving variances, we look at different prongs. For prong 1, whether granting a variance runs counter to public interest. Number 1, no, the request is not a blight on the neighborhood and does not appear to be a threat of a nuisance. Number 2, yes, the subject property is suburban residential district with 3.36 acres. The surrounding property is also zoned suburban residential districts that have manufactured homes placed on the property. Number 3, no, the zoning ordinance does not allow a manufactured home in the 65 to 70 decibel noise level zone. Number 4, the current comprehensive plan has the property zoned as suburban residential district, which requires a 6,500 square foot lot size. Number 5, the location of the building should not harm public safety, health, or general welfare of the community. For prong number 2, whether a special condition exists to grant a variance. Number 1, narrowness and topography do not impact noise level zones, so there's no special conditions that exist. Currently, there is a single-family residence that was built in 1949 per Department of Equalization records. The applicant has applied for a conditional use permit to allow a double-wide mobile home to be used as a caretaker's residence on the property. Access is off of Country Road. There is special flood hazard area on the property. The proposed double-wide is going to be outside of that zone. The applicant is applying for a conditional use permit for a caretaker's residence. Since the subject property falls within the 65 to 70 decibel noise level zone, a variance is required to place the double-wide mobile home on the property. With that, staff is recommending denial of variance VA 21-04 as there is no special conditions that exist on the property.
So is the Kyle Brown The requester, is he in the audience?
Do not believe so, no.
Okay, so there's no representative
No.
for them, okay? Commission, any questions on this?
Chairman,
Commissioner Hadcock?
I would just, maybe he thought we were just gonna deny it, and he didn't show up.
I don't, when I talked to him about it, I told him that staff recommends denial on variances, but he should still show up to the meeting. It's their choice if they want to come or not. We don't force anybody.
I'm just reading on this, Cody, that they're using the property for his grandmother to stay with them.
His grandma lives in the current single-family residence that's on the
Right.
property now. He wants to place a double wide there for a caretaker's residence to take care of his grandma, yes.
Okay, and so if we want to grant that, we can?
The variance?
Yes.
Yes, the board can grant a variance, yep.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Roskinek?
Cody, if I understand that right, they could do a stick-built, but they can't do the modular?
Correct. The noise contour zones, the AQ zones, come from the Ellsworth Air Force Base. Since manufactured homes are built a little differently, they have some nuisance factors for sound and some safety things. So that information and that not allowing in that zone comes from Ellsworth Air Force Base, and we put it in our ordinance to correlate with them.
When was that document prepared?
I believe it was 1990, like 1995, somewhere in there.
I'm assuming that the quality of modular homes has increased significantly since then, and I'm assuming that document's a little bit outdated when you sit there and look at current industry standards. And I kind of lean towards letting them have this variance, because if they could have a stick built and you can put a cheaper option in there and still have the same insulation qualities, to put grandma in, I'd probably lean towards that.
Mr. Chair.
Right.
I'll attempt a motion here. I'd move to approve variance 21-04 because granting the variance does not run counter to the public interest. And I do believe conditions do exist. I think in the area there's already mobile homes and caretakers residents, are allowed and so forth. I think the ordinance is probably outdated, and so I think
Second.
that's my reason.
Got a motion and a second to approve.
Chairman,
Commissioner Hadcock?
we are having a new, I don't know if it's ordinance or added to our books about people being caretakers and things to people's properties. So that's also why I think we should move forward for letting the people take care of their grandma, because a lot of people, when they get elderly, they don't want to move out of their house. So I think it's just a good thing that we're making this exception to the rule.
And these individuals are very well aware.
Ambassador.
Oh, sorry, sir. And these individuals are well aware of where they're living. They know they're near the air base. They know the noise hazard that's there. They've been there for, the individual living there, the property's lived there for how many years?
I don't know specifically how long the grandmas lived there, but the house was built in 1949.
So yeah, they're familiar with what's going on in that area. So they're not newly purchasing this and getting into a situation where they don't understand what it means to have these aircraft flying over their home.
Is there anybody in the audience that's here on behalf of this variance? Seeing none, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item B.
Item B is subdivision regulations variance SV 21-04. It is to waive the requirement not to construct additional storage for domestic use and for fire protection in the planned unit development district. The applicant is Scott and Terry Sauter. They are in the audience if there are any questions. The lot size is 3.0 acres and it's zone plan unit development. Staff recommends denial of subdivision regulation variance SV 21-04. There are no special conditions that exist on the property that would excuse literal enforcement of Pennington County subdivision regulations, sections 500.7 and 700.1. If the Board of Adjustment disagrees and decides to approve this request, staff would add one condition of approval, and that condition be that the subdivision regulation variance SV 21-04 only apply to Lot 1, Block 4, Mountain Meadows subdivision. When approving variances, we look at two prongs. The first prong, whether granting the variance runs counter to public interest. Number one, the request is not a blight on the neighborhood and does not appear to be a threat of nuisance, but if a fire occurs and the undersized water storage could affect the ability to stop the spread to neighboring properties. The Southern Hills Water District only has water hookups for 7 lots within Mountain Meadows subdivision. If the water storage is not added, 4 lots within the subdivision would require individual wells. Number 2, the subject property is zoned plan unit development with 3.00 acres and matches the surrounding zoning and lot sizes in the area. The applicants want to place a single-family residence on the property, a use by right in a plan unit development. Number 3, under the subdivision regulations of 15 or more lots must be served by a central water system. Mountain Meadows subdivision is connected to the Rushmore Ranch Estates water system. Plat note 13 on Mountain Meadows states that after 65 building permits have been issued between the 2 subdivisions, surety for water storage is required. Number 4, yes, the current and future land use is a planned unit development. Number 5, inadequate water storage has the potential to inhibit the ability to fight a fire in the area that would in turn affect public safety. Also, inadequate storage could affect surrounding property access to water. Prong number 2, whether special conditions exist to grant a variance. Number 1, no special condition exists that would prevent additional water storage. The property is hilly, forested, and flat. There is no impediment to constructing additional water storage. The Board of Adjustment did approve a similar variance for a lot in the area to waive the requirements for the water storage. And this lot is one of the 7 hookups to Mountain Meadows water. With that, staff is still recommending denial of subdivision regulation variance SV 21-04.
The Sauter's in attendance. Come on forward.
So Chairman, can I ask Cody a question?
Commissioner Adcock.
Cody, sorry, folks. So is this in the same subdivision that we had the other people do the storage in their house?
Correct, yes.
With
The sprinkler.
Sprinklers.
And we met with the applicants and they agreed to put sprinklers in the house.
So these guys are putting the sprinklers in their house?
Correct,
Okay,
yes.
Thank you.
Just tell us what you're asking and,
We just want access to the water to be able to get our building permit approved.
okay, and you're Terry?
Yes,
Okay, just identify yourself. Susan.
Terry Sauter.
Thank you. Anything to add to that, Scott?
No, sir.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Roskinek?
I'm going to move to approve VS 2104 with one condition based upon the following findings. The special condition involves an intangible hardship in the form of property rights, more so than a physical hardship in this particular case. The hardship involves the owner's property rights or loss thereof. It's my opinion that the applicants or owners of Lot 1, Block 2 of Mountain Meadows subdivision are simply victims of a land developer that never fulfilled their obligations to provide adequate water storage for the Mountain Meadows subdivision. In my opinion, by not approving the variance, owners are not allowed to fully maximize their recently purchased residential lot that I assume they purchased in good faith, thinking that a building permit could easily be obtained without developing 60 to 120,000 gallons of additional water storage. Yes, they cannot maximize the use of their second prong. They cannot maximize the use of their 3-acre residential lot as originally planned, thus impeding their property rights. And the third prong, ordinances are needed to protect the property rights of Pennington County taxpayers. By granting this variance, I suggest property rights have been addressed and substantial justice has been executed.
I have a motion by Commissioner Roskinek. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second by Commissioner LaCroix. Further discussion.
Chairman,
Commissioner Adcock.
I don't know if I agree with everything in his findings, but I do believe because we did the same thing and they agreed to the sprinklers, that I'm in agreement. So there's property rights on both sides for people, and you become a victim when you're not reading something. And I think sometimes because you don't have all the information, doesn't make you a victim. It makes you a person that hasn't basically went through the process and needs help through it. So thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner
When I said one condition, that was based on, it would only apply to this Lot 1, Block 2, but I'm also under the assumption that the owners agreed to do a sprinkler system similar to the one that we approved about a month ago, so that if there is a forest fire, well, we all agree the sprinkler system ain't going to work, but it will certainly eradicate any fire dangers fire danger within the residence itself.
Further discussion, questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion by Ross Connect and second by LaCroy, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Move to come out of
I need
executive
a-
session.
Okay, I've got a motion by Commissioner Hadcock to adjourn Board of Adjustment and reconvene as the Board of Commissioners, and a second from Commissioner Lassiter. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Morning,
Our
Commissioner.
agenda items. Brittany, thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brittany Molitor, Planning Director. Agenda item C is the second reading of Ordinance Amendment OA 21-01, Pennington County to amend the zoning ordinance to add Section 323 bed and breakfast establishments to the Pennington County zoning ordinance. The Board of Commissioners did approve the first reading of this ordinance amendment on April 6, 2021. There have been no changes to this ordinance amendment since the April 6, 2021 meeting.
Commissioner Ross Connect, you sat on the Planning Commission for this one?
I did.
Anything you want to add to it?
Is this the one where we increased the area from 500 to 700?
No, that is item G.
Okay.
Any further questions, or do I have a motion on this one?
Motion to
Chairman.
approve.
I've got a motion by Commissioner Hadcock,
Second.
Second by Commissioner Lassiter. Further comments? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item D.
Item D is public hearing of rezone RZ 2107 and comprehensive plan amendment CA 21-03 for Rodney and Treva Goltz to rezone 0.89 acres from low-density residential district to suburban residential district, and to amend the comprehensive plan to change the future land use from rural residential district to suburban residential district. Planning Commission recommend to continue rezone RZ 2107 and comprehensive plan amendment CA 21-03 indefinitely until such time the applicant meets the notification requirements.
Move to continue.
Second.
Got a motion and a second from Commissioner Lassiter, second by Commissioner Hadcock. Any further questions, comments? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item E.
Morning, Commissioners. Jason Thennison, Assistant Planning Director. Agenda item E is Layout Plan 21-13 to subdivide one lot and create 4 lots. The applicant and landowner is Betty Johnson. Her agent is DC Scott Surveyors. Proposed legal description are lots 1A, 1B, 1C, and 1D of black metal number 4 load MS 1986. Location is 23865 Deegan Drive near Hill City. Current lot size is 14.14 acres. It's zoned rural residential. The applicant's request appears to be in harmony with existing lots and current land uses in the area, and staff recommends approval of Layout Plan 21-13 with conditions. As you can see here on the left-hand side of the screen is the existing lot, and it contains a single-wide mobile home that's not on Department of Equalization records, nor do we have a building permit on file with the Planning and Zoning Office. And likewise, there's no on-site wastewater treatment system information in our office, and that is included as a condition of approval. And on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see the proposed lots in red. Lot 1A will be 3.42 acres, be vacant. Lot 1B is in blue, will be 3.43 acres, also vacant. Lot C, or Lot 1C, is in purple, 3 acres, vacant. And lastly, Lot 1D is in green, will be 4.32 acres, and it will contain the single-wide mobile home. The request was sent out for interdepartmental review. No comments of concern were received. However, Commissioner Ross Connect did send us an email, and he just wanted to point out the topographical challenge that may impact future development on the proposed lots. He knows the area very well, and the majority of the black metal mineral surveys involve steep terrain and a dense juvenile pine canopy. And again, with that, staff recommends approval of Layout Plan 21-13 with conditions.
So moved.
I don't believe that Betty Johnson's here.
I don't believe so either.
Okay.
Second.
We've got a motion from Commissioner Hadcock, second by Commissioner Lassiter to approve. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item F. Joan, do we have anybody that's scheduled to be on Zoom? Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Brittany.
Good morning, Commissioners. Again, item F is preliminary plat PPL 21-06 for Grandview Land LLC, Dan Lewis, Gordon Howie, to create Lot 2 of Block 2 and Lot 1 and Lot 2 of Block 3 and Lot 7 through Lot 10 of Block 3 of Cedar Gulch Number 2 subdivision and dedicated right-of-way. This was continued from the April 6, 2021 Board of Commissioners meeting. The Planning Commission did recommend denial of this preliminary plat at their meeting. Just an overview of this subdivision. The Board of Commissioners did deny the subdivision regulation variances to waive the requirements for a second means of ingress and egress and getting approval from the water district for connection for these lots. So I can entertain any questions that the board may have.
Commissioner Ross Connect, you were on the planning commission. Any
Right,
further-
and their the homeowner's attorney in that he was present, and he pointed out the same concerns that they had relative to the ones that we had at our earlier commission meeting. And if I recall, they went in originally with the concept of 3 lots, and then all of a sudden it was going to be 7, and we just didn't feel comfortable going forward. So it was a unanimous decision to deny.
Okay, is there a motion?
Second is, you kind of make a motion towards the end, motion to deny.
Make a motion to deny.
Second.
Got a motion and a second from Commissioner LaCroy. All those in favor to deny, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item G.
Item G is first reading and public hearing of ordinance amendment OA 21-02, Pennington County, to amend the zoning ordinance to add section 324 accessory dwellings to the Pennington County zoning ordinance. This was continued from the April 6, 2021 Board of Commissioners meeting. The Board of Commissioners requested staff to address 2 concerns that they had. One was the size of the maximum size of the accessory dwelling unit. If you notice on the front page under item B, it was not to exceed 700 square feet from 500 square feet. And the other concern was that as a owner occupied, that anybody that was renting the structure could not have a mother-in-law or a family member utilize the accessory dwelling. So we did change under that section, principal dwelling. The principal dwelling on the property must be owner occupied or utilized as a long-term rental. And we also defined a long-term rental as a single-family dwelling that is leased for a period of 28 consecutive days or more. So staff is recommending those 2 changes based on recommendations from the Board of Commissioners on that section.
Questions of
Chairman,
Commissioner Adcock?
so did we just do the opposite, what we just said on the grandmother? We didn't, did we?
No.
Letting the grandmother, yeah, okay.
No, before with the principal dwelling, it had to be owner occupied. That means that the owners couldn't lease it to anybody else as a long-term
Right.
rental, and then they couldn't have one. That was a
But
discussion.
if you own her, if the grandmother owned it, she could still have someone caretaking on there and it wouldn't have to be leased or whatever kind of.
Right, and the only restrictions on ADUs is they can't be used for home occupations or vacation home rentals.
Okay, thank you, Brittany, and thank you for the changes. I'll make the motion to approve.
Second. Got a motion by Commissioner Hadcock, second by Commissioner Lassiter to approve. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item H.
Item H is ordinance amendment OA 21-03 to amend section 204I standards for manufactured home, modular homes, and site or stick-built homes, and this is to supersede the existing section 204I. Just a couple of the major changes, if you go to pages 2 of 3 and 3 of 3 in your packet, the Planning Commission did recommend to change a couple of things under I-1J, cement to concrete. I believe that's in red in your packets. And then under I-4, under siding, they wanted to add concrete as number 10. The biggest changes with this is that under our current ordinance, it requires that mobile homes and site or stick builds meet that minimum 20 by 20, or they have to get a conditional use permit. Under section 5, the minimum dimensions would only apply to site or stick built homes and not mobile homes. Therefore, people would not be required to get a conditional use permit to place a single wide mobile home on property.
So Chairman,
Commissioner Adcock?
is any mobile homes grandfathered in, or you're just talking new ones coming in?
Correct. These would all be new. So any existing mobile homes that exist currently on a lot are grandfathered. If they move them to another lot, then they would have to meet the requirements. Currently, they would have to get a conditional use permit. If it was grandfathered on one lot and they're moving it to another lot, they would have to get a conditional use permit. Now, they will not have to. Under Section 304, which is the next section, it goes into having the HUD requirements and the HUD stickers. That's going to be the biggest change.
Further discussion?
Motion to
Questions?
approve?
Got a motion by Commissioner
Second.
Hancock, second by Commissioner LaCroy, to approve. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item I.
Item I is ordinance amendment 0821-04 to amend section 304 mobile homes, to amend the language in section 304 to clarify any ambiguities that may exist and ensure these types of homes are not only safe but also available to be used as housing. Like I said before, the biggest changes in here is that the minimum requirements for a mobile home is no longer the 20 by 20. It's 14 feet by 56 feet, which is the smallest standard mobile home under, and it will require a HUD label from now on. So that means that they will have to be certified by HUD. Most of those homes weren't certified by HUD till after 1974, 76. So in the building permit process, they will have to show that. If they do not have the HUD label, they still have the ability to come into the Board of Adjustment and get a variance to these requirements.
Mr. Chairman. Oh,
Commissioner Roskinek.
Brittany, the HUD label, is that updated year to year? I'm assuming that the HUD requirements must change year to year because just the new technology and whatnot?
Right, they don't change every year. I think the last change was in 2000, but they do change often based on standards that they see. We did talk to representatives from HUD, let's say that it was certified by HUD, they don't have their HUD label. They can get a letter from HUD or a memo that says that it's, it meets those requirements. So that won't be a detriment for them being able to get a building permit in the future.
But there have been changes since 1990.
Yes, there's 2000, I think is December 27th, 2000.
I think it runs just about like the uniform building code.
Okay.
It's not a change every year, but it could be a change every year, but typically not, so.
Thank you, Brittany.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner
Astor was first.
Lassiter.
Question for you. So the siding on the mobile homes, you took out the wood appearance. Is there a reason why they can't be sided with anything else and not have a wood appearance? Or is it just because it's the industry standard has changed, or what's that about?
So that was what it was in our original ordinance. So we had changed it, or the planning commission had recommended to change it. A home must have factory installed. So any type of siding that would have been installed by the factory, wood or hardwood or hardboard. So it could have any of those three, anything that was, factory installed, wood or hardboard.
Gotcha.
Commissioner LaCroy, did you have something to
I think I'm good. Thanks.
make the motion?
I'll make the motion for approval.
Commissioner LaCroy made the motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hadcock. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Item J.
Item J is ordinance amendment 0821-05 to amend ordinance 106. This is the public nuisance ordinance. The biggest changes in here is we did actually, if you go to page 8 of 10, it lists, 7 and 8 of 10, it lists actually what we will declare as a nuisance. It got rid of some of the ambiguities, some of the definitions under that ordinance. It removed some of the adult enforcement requirements, the text messaging, electronic messaging, and that just made it an avenue also for notices that wasn't clear in the process. So if a citizen was given notice of a nuisance, what their avenues are, what their abilities are, as far as appealing that, they can come to the Board of Commissioners within 30 days. And and the abatement process. So those are some of the biggest changes. Most of the nuisances are nuisances that were under our old ordinance, with the exception, there were two changes on U and V. The accumulation of snow and ice on a sidewalk that fronts or abuts a property, and the condition of any sidewalk that fronts or abuts a property unfit or unsafe for the purposes of public travel by foot, bicycle, or the like. We worked with the county highway on those two because they have some enforcement issues on some of those, and it was best felt that it would be under the nuisance ordinance.
Questions?
Chairman,
Commissioner Adcock?
we were looking at a ordinance for basically aggressive panhandling. Does this have anything and can be joined in something with the ordinance of abatement of public nuisances? Not abatement, but.
We don't have anything. This mostly has to do with what's occurring on like an individual property owner.
Not on public or, okay.
Yeah,
Just
the only
making sure it
difference.
doesn't have to be joined in or anything we're missing that might have to be, okay.
Right, the only one that we do have is under M. If anybody has personal property deteriorated, wrecked, dismantled, inoperable, or abandoned property located in the public right-of-way or section line right-of-way.
Basically about property. And then, the definition of non-exhaustive list of enumerated conditions declared to be public nuisances, I thought that was what Colin would write. Did you write that, Brittany?
No, that's what Cullen wrote.
Colin, you said you didn't.
Yes, no, Cullen.
I'm like,
we work
okay,
with the
that's
state's
a
attorney's
weird
office.
thing, not weird, a different way to say something. So I'm gonna join you in with Commissioner Roskadek, and you guys could come up with these definitions together. Not a mean thing to say,
Colin
Mr.
McNeese, State's Attorney's Office. I would be honored to join Commissioner Ross.
I'm like, between you two, I'm trying to figure out your definitions and your or your things that you say, but I don't mean that mean, I mean that funny.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Got a motion and a second by Commissioner Adcock and Commissioner LaCroy. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Brittany.
Thank you.
Items from the commission members. We'll start with, these are not committee reports, these are other items. So we'll start with Commissioner Lassiter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to give the commission a heads up, and obviously the public, if they're interested, we're sending out letters to those that we currently are aware that have PFOS, PFOA contamination on their property has impacted their water. I've requested a list from the base, and then, of course, the ones that have already let the county know. And basically, I'm just going to do a fact-finding, ask them some questions if they're willing to answer, and then I'll bring all that information to the Board of Commissioners, and with some other research that I'm doing to find out if there's any other counties that are doing things for the individuals that are impacted, if there's any counties that are, have implemented something or anything of that nature. I don't know out there. I'm just kind of fact-finding right now. So Holly is going to send out the letter. I don't know if everybody has a copy of that letter in front of them, or did you just give me a copy? Okay, it's just a basic letter that's basically saying your property's been identified as being contaminated with PFOS, PFOA. And if you would like to discuss it with me, Travis Lassiter, I'm willing to visit with you because most of the properties I believe are in District 4 anyway. And so the goal is to get in contact with some of those individuals, or if not all of them, before the 28th, and then report back to you guys as soon as I possibly can.
Well, Commissioner Lassiter, a question. So you have a timeline. So if you find those findings, you have to have them get back to you by when?
I have them responding to me before Wednesday, April 28th, so I can kind of pack that all up and then send it to you guys so we can either make a decision whether we need to call a special meeting or if we want to meet, if that's something that we decide to do in another manner. I don't want to say what we're going to do or even allude to one thing or another because I don't know. I just want to make sure we're getting all the information, but in a timely manner so that we can maybe make a decision if we need to.
And we did schedule a meeting on the 30th for Holly, or could, if we wanted to still, if he has his findings on the 28th, that we can actually move forward and maybe have a special meeting on the 30th, kind of like we were going to have anyway on equalization for property changes.
Statute requires 24 hours notice, so whatever day the commission chooses. I was thinking there was a commissioner that wasn't available on the 30th, so We released everything for that day, but we can accommodate however needed.
And then the date, drop dead date, in order to have these properties equalized, is what, Commissioner Lassiter?
I believe I was told May 4th or May 2nd. Do you remember, Holly?
I think it was
from-
the 4th.
I think it's the 4th.
Yes. Just a heads up for where you're moving, Commissioner.
Yes, ma'am. So outside of that, I've already talked to one property owner, and they're in a very similar situation that they have a well that's contaminated. They have cattle on their land, and they're getting water from the Air Force at this moment in time. So once I find out more, I can let everyone know and then move forward with that. They did receive a tax assessment reduction on their property for the amount that it was going to cost to connect water from the local municipality to their land.
And you said there are 66 properties that are connecting to municipality. There's 90-some, which means there's what, like,
We're probably looking close to around 30 or so. The rough numbers I received in an email from the bases, there's 96 impacted properties that are contaminated, not the ones that they're monitoring, that could be contaminated in a future date. But 96 that are contaminated. Out of those 96, 66 have already been connected to a clean well. There's different phases for the other 30, and I don't know where all those are at. So I would expect the number of impacted currently that haven't had any remediation is probably going to be 30 or less. Of the ones that we know that are active contamination, the ones that we know that are being monitored, that we don't know if they're going to be contaminated in the future. We don't know what that number is going to look like until I get at least an idea of what wells they're looking at.
so Commissioner Lassiter, how many have they equalized based on Joe's papers that he has?
They have currently equalized 17 landowners, and those are the ones we're sending the letter to just to see what the process was, to see where they got the determination, to see how it's impacting, and see if it's actually full remediation.
Right.
And one of the ones that the gal that I talked to yesterday is one of the 17 that's on here. So I've already talked to that one particular individual.
Thank you for that information, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Others
Any
with,
questions?
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, any other questions?
Other commission members that have items other than their reports on committees?
Chairman,
Commissioner Adcock.
I'm going to the 3030 land grab tonight. Some of the ranchers have called me, some of the people from Fairgrounds called me, so I'll be going to that. It's at 7 o'clock tonight at Elks, and I don't know who else is, but Holly needs to know just in case there's going to be 3 there, so
I do plan on going tonight.
I think it's just me and you then, Travis.
So just the two of you? Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Roskinek.
April the 9th, I attended the groundbreaking for the Liberty Center at Box Elder, where Hanny Shaffey presented an overview of the Liberty Center, which will be geared for the general public, but also for the personnel at Ellsworth Air Force Base. This is going to be about a $12.5 million project with a 2022 completion. And to make that happen, it was a collaboration between a lot of entities, the federal, state, county, and private. Later that day, I attended the Strategic Housing Advisory Board that Dave Lust and Barry Tice did a short presentation. This is a board that they're trying to put together a revolving loan, and their goal would be about $30 million, where that would entice developers to come in with low interest rates to offer what they call workforce housing. This wouldn't be Section 8 housing, and it wouldn't be what a lot of people call affordable housing. It would be workforce housing that would be focused on the workforce that keeps Rapid City going and the Southern Hills going. It's the people that work in restaurants and hotels. That's what they consider workforce housing, and this is where we feel that there's really a shortage of housing, and we'd rather be proactive than reactive relative to those housing needs. The overall objective of the trust fund is to create flexible, low-interest loans for developers and property owners to increase the stock of workforce rental units. These funds would be revolving, so it's more akin to an investment than it is a grant. Then later that day, Gary and I met with Mayor Larson and Nicole Schreider with the Box Elder, doing some brainstorming on the build grant, and I'll let Gary expand in that more. Then later that day, we met with Matt Bruner and Anna Hayes with Elevate Rapid City discussing the possibility of looking at a discretionary tax formula, which would be an incentive for developers to come into this area relative to commercial and industrial development. Of these 66 counties, there's 63 that offer that discretionary tax formula, and so we're looking at possibility of Pennington County jumping on board with that. We're still in the discussion stages. On the 14th, I met with Rushmore Forest Products owner Jim Nyman. We met at the Hill City Hall. Jim brought his team from Hewlett, Wyoming. If you take all the Rushmore Forest Products property over there, the sawmill by Hill City, there's about 87 acres, and they committed 2.7 acres to the Hill City Economic Development. They're not giving it to us, they're just saying that particular site's got some RV hookups, and they're saying if you can find somebody to come in, work for us, they need a place to put a camper, an RV, let them do it. They're just trying to do whatever they can relative to making it easier on the folks in Hill City in that area. We're going to have a subsequent meeting on the May the 6th, and Jim indicated that sawmill ain't going to get shut down in 60 days, as some articles indicated that. He said it'll probably be a year. They have, the big demand right now is boxcar siding, and he said that would, they're going to need at least a crew of 10 for that. But it was a good meeting, and we're doing some brainstorming, and we're going to follow up on May the 6th, and I'm sure there'll be meetings after that. But there again, we're looking at what can that property be used for, reallocated, repurposed, and there again, it might be some workforce housing. Other than that, Gary and I went to the Big Five meeting. I'll let him, he's got more information on that than we. Yeah, I believe that would pretty much cover my activities.
It's been a busy couple of weeks.
Commissioner, could I,
Yeah, go ahead.
Chairman, could I ask him a question? So isn't that Forest Products, is that in 500 year or floodplain or floodway?
We figure that, and we figure that probably 50% of that is in the 100 or the fringe floodway, or what they call Zone AE. And we've already, addressed that. That's where they stack their logs, and we know that area. So we've already looked at, can't be used for developing, but certainly can be used for public parks and recreation.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner.
you're still under items from commission.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring up, if I may, me and Gary a couple of weeks ago had talked about when we're doing planning commission stuff. We do our rotating on planning commission, each one of us. Some bodies do it to where whoever attends that makes the motion as we go through. And they have the information because they attended. If you noticed, Gary's tried to recognize who's ever attended the meeting. And so it's ultimately up the chair who runs the meeting, how they want to run the meeting. But I always thought it'd be nice for us to whoever attended that meeting to be able to make the motion of the recommendation from that body. It gives the respect to the planning commission that has heard it, and their representative is here. I'm just throwing that out there. That's what I was thinking as we're kind of going through this, that because we get the whole, it's just like we're rehearing it again, just like the planning commission did. I'm just looking at it as a respectful way of taking the recommendation from that body, that representative could make that motion for them just, not all of them, it's just under agendas from them, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what your guys' thoughts are or Gary's on it, but
Well, that's today's, everything that said, planning commission, gone through the planning commission. I tried to see if there was something besides what Brittany could share with us, that Ron, having sat on it, if there was something else that we needed to be aware of. So, that's what I plan on doing, is whoever's sitting on the planning commission, I'll try to call on them to see if there's anything else that, rest of the commission members, would need for their consideration. So during the last couple of weeks, besides the regular committee meetings, we still have, the Crisis Center still has, Care Campus still has considerable interest from outside of the area. Minnehaha County is adding to their triage center. And so Cindy Heiberger, a commissioner, brought 3 of the staff out. And so I went with them and we toured the Care Campus. Barry gave them the presentation, so forth. Minnehaha County is going to do add to their facility, but their facility is only about a fourth the size of what our Care Campus is at this point in time. So we talked a lot about I met with Joe and Sean and Mark Schock and Connie Bertolotti, Lotto, along with the state representatives and the federal representatives, trying to run through all the scenarios on the Rochford Road and the Sheridan Lake Road. So Joe pretty well covered all of that. Ron and I also met with a local developer that was talking about not that he was doing the development, but another developer is interested in doing some further development for basically workforce housing. And obviously the issues that we deal with on this raw land, and this is about 120 acres, is that there's no service into them. I mean, there's no water, sewer, anything into them. So they just wanted to make us aware that, they're looking at building homes between that $175,000 and $225,000 in that market frame, which right now with the prices and stuff, that seems to be pretty reasonable as far as workforce housing. I want to thank Ron for covering the commission at the Liberty Center groundbreaking. I walked in as he was giving his last sentence, so he did a good job. Also, relative to the one that Ron mentioned on meeting with Dave Lust and Barry Tice, relative to low interest loans for developers and so forth. If any of the others of you want to have that same kind of presentation, just contact either Doug or David or Barry, and they will do that with you. So it's very good information. So Ron's already covered the box elder, talking about the build grant, which is now called a RAISE grant, according to the federal government. And he talked about the discretionary formula. So met with several of the people, including John, relative to the drug policy. As I mentioned earlier, that will be coming back to us at a later date for our consideration. Commissioner Rosknecht and I also met with the mayor. The Metallusa camp is ending on May 1st. He was just pointing out that there will be another 50 to 90 people that will be looking for places to go when that closes down. Also, part of our discussion was with him was talking about they're seeing a need on the city level. They're seeing a need that they're needing for a lot of the calls that they're receiving, that they really don't need necessarily a certified police officer there. So they're looking at coming up with some alternative suggestions as to how they may handle those in the future, what kind of employees they may need for that. So that's in the works. Met also with Travis and I met with, we had Jerome Harvey there, Jay Alderman, Tracy Dawson Decker, Holly, Sheriff Tome, Mark Hughes, talked about the fireworks. And basically, you know, all of that is really established by state law. Municipalities have some freedoms of being able to determine what kind of fireworks can be utilized, if any, in municipalities. But as counties, we really don't have any authority to do anything on it. So it's just one of those things.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Oskin.
This would probably be a good time to let the commission members know that when we were meeting with the mayor at Box Elder, we're trying to work on their water issue problems. Well, we found out they don't have water issue problems. In fact, they got some of the best water you could ask for. And the numerous wells and the numerous $1 million storage tanks, or $1 million gallon. But we were thinking, you know, we can get them hooked up with Rapid Valley, and they said we wouldn't take Rapid Valley water because ours is superior. So there was this rumor out there that I think they had one bad well, and because that one bad well, there's that impression that Box Elder had inferior water, but I asked them to put together a summary of their wells, and they're drilling more wells and their capacity, just so that the general public has a better understanding of the water quality for the community of Box Elder.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Lassiter.
I have a question on that. So do they have enough water for the community that's there? Because I mean, if I understand correctly, there's a couple of communities that don't have water, or there's flow restrictions or something. I can't remember exactly what it is, primarily off of Radar Hill Road and stuff. Or is that just more of a infrastructure problem that has to be rectified?
Getting it there.
Chairman.
That's basically, it's a matter of getting it there. They have essentially like 10 wells online now. We got 3 more in the planning stages to take care of their future needs. They don't seem to have any concerns that they're going to have enough quantity, and they said their quality is just superior, so that's not a problem. So yeah, your question is relative to areas that are outside of that that are going to be in need of water. They feel that they could provide it to them for whatever developments are
Gotcha.
Come along. Commissioner Hancock.
Couple of things. So been working on that, basically an ordinance for aggressive panhandling, even for Pennington County. So been meeting with many of the community members and some lawyers, our lawyers from our state's attorney, and outside lawyers from Gunderson Palmer. And when we had the meeting, and we talked about, you said they were dissolving in up on top of the hill. The mayor had told us that day as well. He also said, so people in the community know, they're looking at, Indiana is looking at a tiny home community, and the city is actually working towards trying to find an area that would work for. So it's not like they're just going to make them go away. They actually are looking out for alternatives. And then the unit that they want to help with people is called a crisis response unit, which will have a Native American person with the background of the area they're working at, and a fire department person, and so they're not calling the police. And only know some of this as well because we have, the weekly motel, and we use some of those response teams for different areas. The other thing is the Liberty Center groundbreaking. There was also other commissioners and our office manager there. That was pretty amazing what they were doing, showing the pictures, and Commissioner LaCroix was there as well. Like I said, Holly Hennies was there. Pretty amazing what they're going to do out there. A lot of funny things from the Dusty telling us it'd never be the first time he's been in a weight room, and Mr. Thune, or what's his name, Senator Thune. It's going to be pretty amazing. The other thing is Hanny's doing some major stuff all over in Rapid City, not just out there. And if you look, he's just improving a lot of those areas. So we also talked about the Hope Center, and we're in the meeting with the mayor, and he said that they might be looking at an alternative site. I think the other site was going to be behind Kmart. So a lot of things happening as we discussed today. Chairman, thank you for what you do for us. That's a lot of meetings. We've all been there in one sense, and the other, I don't know if you know, but Gary just showed you how many meetings he actually goes to besides the meetings here. And maybe we could discuss at some time, that compensation again for that chairman, because that chairman of this board, we go to 6 plus some other extras. He probably goes to 6 a week, so, or that chairman does. So anything we could do to discuss maybe something like that later, because he does have to go. And I think you should, because we all get paid for our meetings plus that 6. So just something food for thought for later. But thank you for your service and what you do for our commission, Gary.
Now let's go back to,
I just wanted to add on to what you
Okay.
said. I'm sorry, I
You're
know
okay.
this is dragging on, but that collective healing initiative that I've been working on for 2 years, have you guys seen some of the work that we've done? Right in here, as you were talking about, we have in the recommendations, creating a Native community street team to build public safety partnership. That's we're working with the police department with that.
Yep.
A response, you can call it multiple different things, quality of life, but there's also this response team. And
So Commissioner.
I'll mention it under reports, but I just wanted to pass that out, that's going.
So Commissioner LaCroix, it was Chris that called me and he called it that. He called it crisis response unit.
Yeah.
So I didn't call it that, but
Yeah.
he just wanted food for thought and because we use their services, in our
But they're
area.
going with the New York, it's a New York native or street team type thing. So it's nothing that's new. It's just we've gotten the information from them and it's spread.
Yes, sir.
okay, now we'll go to committee reports. Travis, back to you.
Nope.
I'm sorry, can we back up to your NACO conference, please? That's on the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. 2021 NACO annual conference. As I understand it, this is going to be both in person and online. Is that the way I'm reading that? So it's July. What are the dates again?
Looks like 9 through the 12th.
Is that on here? And I'm not
Yes, sir.
seeing?
I have 8 through 12.
8 through 12.
It says 9 through 12.
Okay.
Probably the main thing that I'm following through NACO at the present time is the updates as to what's going to happen relative to the American Rescue Plan and how that may impact us. We've been given a basic dollar amount that we're probably going to receive, but the criteria has not been established yet as to how that can be used. And for counties, it's going to be apparently through the Department of Treasury, where municipalities is going to be back through the state. And so this is being handled different than what the original COVID dollars were handled. So is there any interest by commissioners of attending the NACO conference?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner LaCroix.
I would be interested in that because I'm thinking, I was reading up through it and we have to admit, I mean, at this point, we don't have a lot of information on what some of the classes are going to be and all that, because it's, they would have normally planned for this last year.
Yep.
But they're going to stress on some of these rescue efforts. Their biggest thing is that they're a mile. That's why they changed the location to where it's at, because they're a mile from the Capitol, and so those officials can come over to the conference, give a presentation. They don't have to travel to come, so they're going to invite all those people in to do that. And as this goes forward, I think there's going to be a lot of precautions set up into place. This is their election of some of their officials, vice president and so forth. I did take a survey earlier this week for NACO on if you were going to attend, how many are going to be vaccinated, so forth, and they want to kind of get an idea how many people are planning on going so they can start setting things up. Personally, last year I did a conference with MacArthur Foundation online. I was actually one of the presenters that was on it. And although this is hybrid and you can do it that way, quite frankly, folks, I'm at the point where that don't work for me. for conferences or anything without being, and the reason why I say that is most of your networking starts after the workshop, out in the hallways, walking around afterwards. And I think in our part, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I think our part is to the community is to show that, to try and get back to normal, try to help out the economy. Personally, if there was a way, you're a mile away from the Capitol, if there was an evening open, I would go over to the Capitol to see how things were after the surge and so forth, or try to visit with one of our elected officials. But that's where I'm at with it. I don't know what some of your guys' thoughts are, but I am interested in trying to move forward and attend.
Travis, you interested?
I would be, except that I've already got a commitment that's gonna have me in Custer, where I'm gonna be at, it's gonna be in the hills where there's no cell service, and I wouldn't be able to do the virtual for it either.
Okay. Ron?
Probably not. I'm just gonna echo Lloyd's sentiments there.
Okay. Deb?
For me, some of the stuff I'd like to see what's on the agenda and maybe do it here for me because I'm busy, but if there's interesting things that I might miss, then I would like to, I don't want to do the 3-day thing because I can't sit that long, but there's going to be classes or different areas that I'm interested in. So the other thing I would ask is maybe send Holly.
Yeah.
Okay, Ollie, you interested?
I can check into it.
Okay, and put me down too as having interest, so.
Holly gets all that information and
As
when we're
going
gone,
in
she keeps
person
it,
for
so.
you?
Send her.
Okay,
You want to go too? Just kidding.
now let's go back to committee
Sorry.
reports.
All right, thank you. I did forget to kind of touch on the Liberty Center thing. I didn't get to make it there. I was out of town due to a funeral, but I got to watch what got posted online, and y'all all look sharp over there. So I just wanted to say that. But I'm kind of bummed I didn't get to go there because I was really wanting to go, but last minute things happened. So anyway, so my two are the EM Users Board and the Rapid City Public Library Board of Trustees. The EM Users Board, basically, we talked about, we all just got the briefing about the radio project, Rockerville and the Black Hills Radio Coverage Project. So I'm not going to go over that again, but we're still also working for the Northern Pennington County radio coverage. The study was completed, that was requested by Jerome Harvey. There's found to be about 300 spots that were surveyed. There's some sporadic to no coverage in those areas. There appears to be a tower that they're looking at utilizing off of Creighton Road, and it would cost about $15,000 for the board to cover the cost to do what's needed to make sure our coverage in that area is better for emergency response. Staffing update, one of the things that they're talking about, if y'all haven't gone through the 911 call center, I'd encourage a tour over there. I went through that. It's pretty neat. I mean, I've worked in EMS most of my life. I've seen small ones. This is the first large one that I've been in, so I had a different view prior to, but they are pretty busy. They had added an individual staff member for the city side a couple of years back. Now they're looking to add another FTE in the near future for the county side because of the calls and the assists and things of that nature. So that is something that the board is discussing, and we'll bring that to the Board of Commissioners for approval in the future. But just kind of want to put that on your minds because it's something that they're watching and they're seeing the number of calls and the use of the potential use of another person to come online for that. Let's see here. What else did I have? Oh, I don't know if this came out just yet or not. I don't see the date on here. I know it's coming soon if it hasn't already happened, but if y'all haven't heard of text to 911, basically it's call if you can, text if you can't. We're moving to a text to 911 across the country, just in case if you can't call, you can text it. They can activate your phone's GPS and things of that nature. So that's either coming or it has already started. I don't remember the date of when it was, and it's not in my notes right here. So it has started. Okay, so I know that was coming. And so if you weren't aware of it, I was going to let you know, but y'all are aware of it. So for the Rapid City Library, there's a couple of things that happened there. The vice chair that was there resigned. She's moving out of the state, so we elected a new vice chair, Emily Tupa. April 19th was the new website launch for the library. So there's some new. The website looks totally different than before. It's pretty user friendly. It looks like, and so if you utilize the library, or you have utilized the website, I'd encourage you to look at it now. They've got a new service to check out Wi-Fi hotspots. So they've got 10 of them. You can check them out for starting May 1st. So they got 10 devices, and I think you can check them out for about a week. They're trialing this. They expect this to be a hot commodity, if you will, and if it does well, then they may add some more. So that's a pretty interesting expanse. And so people can have hotspots wherever they're at, so that they can do homework or whatnot, especially if they don't have internet connection at their home or wherever they happen to be. They've started utilizing the meeting rooms again. The use of them is still down, but they're starting to utilize them again, and people can request them or reserve them. They're also moving their mobile library is kicking off this summer. So I already know at least in New Underwood there's a mobile library that's going to be stopping at the park in New Underwood. I don't know where the other spots are, but they've reached out and got approval to do a mobile library for each of the communities they're reaching out into. And then outside of that, they're just working on some policy updates for their continuing education, for their interlibrary loans, and then for loan periods, fines, fees, and policies. And a lot of that is coming because of adding the Wi-Fi hotspots, so they've got to update everything with that. So outside of that, that was pretty much the bulk of the meeting. If you didn't know, I think I talked about it last time, they have gone to a mask recommended policy there, and then only if you're having interaction with staff do you have to wear a mask.
So Travis, how long did they shut down the library last year? Didn't they shut down the library because of COVID?
Well, I didn't ask the question about being shut down. Ever since I've been on the board, they've only had a mask mandate in there. In the first meeting that I came on to the board, they were talking about doing the mask recommended, and they did a trial period, and then they put it into policy based on the number of active cases for Pennington County. So as long as the active cases for Pennington County are below 200, then it's a mask recommended, and the executive director or the director over there has a capability to make them mandated if it's over 200. But I do think that there was a time period that it shut down for a little bit, but they still did their online services they could do, and I think they did delivery.
I guess where I'm going is the budget of the county. Holly, I don't know if we're still stable with that for funding. And number two, is the funding, because maybe they didn't have as much patrons, maybe they're not using as much services, meaning because of COVID or anything, do they have you pay less? So like most departments in most areas, people didn't have a lot of people in there and they weren't having to use the services, that kind of thing. Or do we just pay one lump sum and it doesn't matter how many patrons, Holly?
Yeah, our contract was changed several years ago that it's not a percent of the operating budget any longer. It's a flat dollar amount.
Okay, and I didn't know if we could change that or how we're doing with that. Have you updated that at all, Holly?
Joan?
Commissioner Hadcock, the library did close to walk-in traffic, but they were staffed and they utilized their drive-through, and they still had their online services. The phones were manned, so the employees were mostly there working. Some were working from home, doing things they could do there, but they never not had services. You could not walk in and check out a book, but you could reserve it online, go to the drive-through, pick it up, and then drop it off at their drop-off. So they were kind of a hybrid of services.
Thank you, Ms. Jones.
And I know they had some cleaning costs incurred on that one. Whenever I took a tour of the library, you can see they've got a backlog of how the books come in. They have to sit and wait for so many days, and then they can reissue them back out. And that was for COVID protection purposes. So there you go.
Thank you.
Commissioner LaCroix.
Well, the paper says I had nothing. But I had YFS Board of Directors meeting, Zoom one, and also a policy committee, that one, and probably about 3 other Zoom meetings with Collective Healing group. I will share, a little bit about that. If you guys would like a copy of what the recommendations from Collective Healings is, we can have Joan print you off some so you have them to know. You know, this was a 2-year work in progress coming up with these recommendations for collective healing for the police department on recommendations for healing and better relations with the Native community in our area. And we presented our recommendations probably about a month ago to the police department, a group of us. And that group that was involved with that was Bev Warren, Karen Pettigrew, Gene Tallien, myself, Annie Lloyd, James Rattleleaf, and the Hermes Battalion. And the police department's doing their recommendations. They're going through, one of the challenges I challenged the police department to is to go through what they're already doing and compare them to the recommendations that were came up, and what are some of the things that you're already doing, what can you work with, so forth. The street team, as we just talked about a little bit earlier, was one of the recommendations quite a bit further that the police department was working on. But at our last meeting, we were talking about what is going to happen with this group. And I kind of, we were looking at Mr. Kinzer, Dave Kinzer was online with the group, and what are they going to do, the recommendations, some input. And quite frankly, I thought they need to hire somebody to run these community groups to keep things going. This originally started out with Richard Bernstein running the group, gathering all the public information and input, and he's the one that actually come up with all the recommendations to present. It was hired from the Department of Justice grant to do that. He was. So I just wanted to pass that on too, but these are recommendations. But anyhow, the meeting that I had Saturday was probably the most moving meeting that I've ever had with this group. They did the wiping of the tears ceremony, the prayers, and I just can't explain the feeling in that room that day. It was the best I've felt in this community for a long time with the people that we've had. Listening and talking to our younger Native children or Native youth that was there, how they're continuing their education. They want better for their community and find ways to do it. I mean, these were some of the thoughts. We broke them out into groups to see what they thought of the recommendations. What can we do better? What did we not do? These were the questions that we asked, and we're going to compile that information and present it this Saturday to Dave Kinzer and his group. So we're still gathering that information from the breakout sessions that we had. But I just wanted to bring up to this group that, I'm just amazed at where we've come. The group that I'm working with, that's what they stress, is how far we have come in this community as far as race relations compared to 20 years ago. And some of their forward thinking and what they want to see accomplished it was good, honest conversation with meaningful recommendations to move forward in our community is what I gathered from it. So I just wanted to pass that on. It takes a lot to make me feel anything. I'm pretty numb most of the time, so.
Thank you, Commissioner LaCroix. So, April 12th, Commissioner Lassiter and I attended the Central States Fair Board meeting. We had the new board members there, Roger Porch of Phillip, Tanner Schilder, who lives here in Rapid now, and then Bob Mills, who lives in the far southern part of the state. In fact, Gordon, Nebraska is his address. We do have, Holly had mentioned about an issue on the 30th for our meeting. The Central States Fair Board has a retreat on that Thursday and Friday in Deadwood. And so actually on the morning of the 30th is the regular meeting of the board. of which I did plan on attending. They are trying to move forward with fixing the number 4 stalling barn, something that I think the building committee needs to discuss because there's they got paid some insurance, but we have a $50,000 deductible on that we're going to need to come up with.
Well, Chairman, we did discuss that at the building committee, and I think we're moving forward on that because it has to be fixed, sir.
Okay, super. So the events that the Central States Fair has scheduled for 2021 at this, as of that date, is they had 210 events, event days at the event center with 62 different events. And the other building rental days are 143 days with 64 events. So it's a busy place. Big Five meeting, much discussion about the workforce housing need in both Pennington and Rapid City and Hill City and probably each of our other communities also. So Superintendent Simon talked about that they're going back to a regular school year this coming fall. No masks, but masks will be part of their school supplies. She said that distance learning has been very successful for a certain element of all ages. And so they'll look at how they may continue that for a select number of students. In addition, this next year, they'll have Lakota classes for all ages. Ron mentioned this. They are looking at $18 million from the American Relief Fund for 2 new skill buildings. They are ready this next fall to begin the 6 career academic opportunities, and Superintendent Simon said that there's many 10th graders that have indicated an interest in those technical programs. Deb Bowman, president of WDT, talked about the new course for the meat cutting and processing that they're working through with the Wall Meats. They're pretty excited about moving forward with that. On April 15th, had the Defense Economy Pillar for the military for Ellsworth. They are moving forward with planning some technical seminars to be held on particular subjects in the next year in regard to various subjects such as contracting opportunities with the B-21 radar coming soon. And then Ron and I also attended the MPO meeting. There's a lot of, as you all know from driving around, there's a lot of construction taking place. There's 85 construction projects in Rapid City alone. That doesn't include the ones outside of the city. So,
Chairman, just one question. For infrastructure, meaning water, we have a lot of people moving in from different areas. Did they ever do any analysis or anything of how much and how long the water source, depending on how many people, because we have, 110 in surrounding areas right now. How much are we supposedly supposed to build up in the next 5 to 10 years? And what's moving forward for the infrastructure of that? Has anybody talked about that?
well, they're working on it, but there hasn't been a lot of discussion openly about where they're at with it. So,
Right. And that's the one from Missouri River? Is that meaning for water?
right, that's one of the things that the West Dakota Water District is working on. I attended their last meeting, and Cheryl has been, contracted through Banner to do some legwork on their behalf, and so they're trying to move that forward. We just know that that's going to be a long time project, but it'd be nice to be able to bring that Missouri River water to western South Dakota.
I just didn't know if they ever did an analysis, because we droughted one year with Pactola, and we had to have water restrictions. I didn't know with everybody moving in the next 5 to 10 years, and if, we did have an impact on that water source, how many people would that serve, and if we droughted out, or if they did any of that, because that's going to be huge with how many people are supposedly moving to the surrounding area from other states. So
I agree.
just something for
The indication is that Box Elder has a sufficient supply and that the valley has a sufficient supply at this point in time. Other areas I don't know about. So, Commissioner Roskinek.
The Planning Commission was canceled last month due to Mike was gone. but we do have a meeting today at 2:00,
Main
so.
building?
Excuse me, the building committee, been a long day. So the building committee was canceled because Mike was gone last meeting, so we'll catch up today at 2:00. The planning commission, I think the item that we spent the most time on was the preliminary plat for Grandview land, which, as we mentioned earlier, it involved 7 lots. And the concern we had was the lack of ingress and egress to that particular subdivision, along with we're not really sure what they have for water and sewage, and we've had a lot of opposition to that expansion, so we made the unanimous decision at the planning commission to deny that preliminary plat until we feel that there's been more skin in the game by the developer. The MPO meeting, the Rapid City Area Metropolitan Planning Organization receives federal grants on a yearly basis as part of the Federal Transit Administration Section 5310 program to provide capital assistance to elderly persons and/or persons with disabilities. The Rapid City Area MPO solicited applications from entities throughout the region regarding assistance with vehicles and/or operating costs. Funding is provided by an 80-20 split for capital costs and a 50-50 split for operating costs. 3 organizations submitted applications. The final selection went to Black Hills Work for a total of $90,000 to buy two vans to transport elderly and disabled. Then we approved the 2020 traffic count. And the traffic count's interesting because there's areas intersections in Rapid City where you have more than 40,000 vehicles a day on a bidirectional basis, on a daily bidirectional basis. So I'm guessing one's Mountain View and West Main, but it's interesting to see when you get these traffic counts. These folks have to plan ahead. How are you going to do this? How are you going to keep that traffic flowing and with the years to come? Because it's amazing with the increase of people moving in the area, the condition of our roads and the planning the amount of pre-planning that takes place to make sure that we got an adequate transportation system in years to come. Other than that, that's pretty much my committee reports.
Commissioner Hadcock.
Yes, Natural Resources with Scott Guffey. Like I said, we have a great board. I think they're going to see if they can hire Commissioner, or keep calling Commissioner, Mark DeSanto for part-time help. They needed some part-time help. Also, he's looking at some of the areas for having to pay for people to do drug tests. Believe it or not, $800 for his budget is a lot of money. So I'll keep saying, I think we need to, with some of that help, maybe step up and help his funding source a little bit, because he does work for his money. He actually takes money from the timber sales and different things, and he's very innovative, but I think some of that he shouldn't have to keep doing guesswork to be able to fund himself when he, works very hard. The other thing is they're going to have a camp, which I need to learn more about ag, which you never can think you know enough because it's ever changing. So I'm going to this camp. Mr. Guffey is going, and we learn about soils. We're learning about different plants. I think that's pretty interesting. So anything to update me so I can learn a little bit more about natural resources is a good thing. And then the Fire Service Board, thank this board over and over again for what we do for them with the fire and everything. Just we're very thankful that we were backing them up and appreciate their services. They are working on the budget. They have been working on the budget for the last month or so. They said something about they had like 420 people on that last fire that were combined services of different people in the city. So that's a lot of people and a lot of radios. So good thing we're updating those radios. Just that's about it, but just pretty proud of that fire service board and the volunteers and what they do, so,
That it?
yes, sir.
Move to approval of the vouchers.
So move.
Got a motion to approve vouchers in the amount of $2,465,051.41 by Commissioner Roskinick. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second by Commissioner Hadcock. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Any items from the public?
Come on, John.
We got another executive session.
Move to go into executive session.
I got a motion by Commissioner Roskinick.
Second.
Go into executive session, seconded by Lassiter, to consult with legal counsel. Oh, and then there's also planning, comp plans and maps, I guess, too, for that. All in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Executive session.
Joan, you got us on? Okay, I've got a motion to come out of executive session in a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried.
I don't think we have.
No other business? Take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
To adjourn in a second. Further discussion? No, there's no discussion on adjournment. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.